All right. Okay, so I wanted to welcome our guest speaker today, Sue Sutcliffe from World Event Center. I'll just do a bio and I'll hand it over to you, Sue. So Sue Sutcliffe is the CEO, Chief Event Officer of World Event Center, where we gather like never before. Sue has been making digital profitable since 1995, and after 25 years of managing a digital marketing agency, her training practice, she took a few years off to care for her family and thought about what she'd like to do when she grew up. She has decided to launch a virtual digital marketing conference for owner-operated small businesses who couldn't afford the time or money to attend conferences, landed 4 national sponsors, and attracted about 400 people when the pandemic struck. So Sue launched World Event Center, a virtual event platform that is the next best thing to meeting in person, and it's taking the world by storm. Sue will be sharing how you can use this for free and other tips and tricks for growing your own business and virtual events. Welcome, Sue. Oh, sorry, you're just on mute.
Got to do that at least once a day. Thanks so much for the introduction, and I'm really happy to be here today. Hoping to give you lots of insight into that, and by all means, please do keep the questions coming. What I thought we could start with is I have 2 presentations ready for you today. I'm just going to share my screen now and see if I can't get the one that I want up here. Yeah, no, it's not necessarily showing me. Okay, I'm going to take you to the presentation. And that means that, sorry, I'm not as used to this platform as I am the other one. So here we go. We'll start with this one, and I'll cycle back. So please do keep the chat going. We're going to actually move to another platform shortly, but at this point, I'd like to talk to you about event marketing in general, because really, I think a lot of people, me included, avoided event marketing because I didn't really like looking at myself on camera. And then I learned I don't necessarily have to be on camera. And I learned a whole bunch of things about that, and tricks around that. So if you're challenged with that, don't delay. Ask for help. Ask for somebody help from somebody that's doing it, because there's all sorts of ways around that. That's a real common thing with women, and we don't want you to end up with that issue. So feel free to reach out if you want to talk about that. So just to give you kind of like the background, this is what I focus on now. I do virtual coaching and I do virtual event solutions. But today we're going to talk all about virtual event solutions. That's why you're here, and this is why I'm qualified to speak on the topic. I've been doing virtual conferencing since 1997, and a lot of things have changed since then. I didn't go hot and heavy into it in 1997, not because it wasn't a phenomenal opportunity, but because broadband in general couldn't support it. So it wasn't really a viable marketing opportunity. But that changed, and the feds have said that everyone within the next 2 years will have access to high-speed internet. Now, just so you know, that's not the case right now. Not everybody has high-speed internet. So we'll talk about catering to your crowd. Now, if you have any questions after this, you can put Sue Sutcliffe in any browser, you'll find me. But probably LinkedIn is probably the best way I can help you, because I've got a pretty large sphere and I'm happy to share with you. The more people you connect with in LinkedIn, the more people can find you. So that's something, even if you don't like LinkedIn, you should go into LinkedIn, make sure your profiles represents who you are, and that you can take advantage of all the leads you get when you connect. Okay, so how to succeed with event marketing? It really comes down to your why, right? It comes down to your why. Like, why are you doing this? And with anything to do with marketing, a lot of entrepreneurs are creative thinkers, and they go, oh, I got an idea, I'll do this. You really have to explore your why really deeply, and understand, kind of exactly what you want to get out of it. And really, what does a really good host do? What a really good host does is they think about who's on the bus with them. But let's talk about your why. Why would you want to do event planning? Why are leaders doing this now? Why are people going in droves to event marketing? Well, high performers have different motives for hosting events, and you may have some that aren't shown here. But some of the things that these high performers are doing are they're trying to connect with people because the pandemic's making it challenging, right, to actually go face to face with somebody. And you can communicate on via chat and email, but there's nothing like face to face. I think honestly, I love connecting with somebody, and I think communication is so much stronger when you can see them and you can kind of feel their vibes. Sometimes we can't get together in person, so video conferencing, video is the way to go, and you can do that with most event platforms. And that's really where success happens. If you look at economic development, we've been working with economic development offices all over Canada since 1995, and they all have one thing in common. They understand that when people get together and face to face, business happens, and this is why they run events. But there's all sorts of different reasons. So our business is driven by connecting people, for sure. We had to solve a sales problem. Like maybe you can't demo your product, but you can show it to them. We needed to maintain our lead flow, for sure. Nobody really cares about you until they know what you can do for them. And there's no better way to show somebody what you can, to communicate what you can do for somebody rather than showing them. So it's a really powerful tool. Engagement with customers, for sure, right? We have to go face to face with people. They have 4 holidays a year called touch out, reach your customer, or reach out to your customer days. And that's because, there's a lot of loyalty is a problem. If we don't stay in contact with our customers, there's a perceived lack of there's indifference, and so there's no loyalty. So it's important to stay in touch with people. And if you think about who comes to mind when somebody says, I need something, you might know a whole ton of people, but what comes to mind is people that you've seen. So those relationships have to be nurtured throughout these times. No matter what the challenges are, we have to overcome them. And there's all sorts of different solutions. We had to drive engagement with prospects, for sure. What do they want to know? Why not show a webinar? Why not do a webinar and answer the questions? They're looking for answers. So put on a little show that tells them, why, what the options are, maybe what all the options are and what you could offer. And there's all sorts of different types of reasons that you might like that. So in the chat, if you wouldn't mind, take a moment now, if you would, and put in the chat, well, why would you like to run events? Are you running events? What kind of events are you running? Let's give you 30 seconds. If you could just put something in, it could be events that you're running now. What type of events are you running now? It could be events that you'd like to try, but maybe you haven't done. Let's see this chat light up. I'd like to cater the presentation to you specifically if I can. So by all means, put that in the chat. Okay, so live sales, I think that's a great idea. Like, I really feel like show and tell is the best way to do it. I mean, for me personally, it's always been the best way. If I can get in front of somebody, I've got the deal. It's very rare that I lose a deal if I talk to somebody, because quite frankly, I'm not going to sell somebody something if it's not right for them. So if they, I think you get one-to-one with them and you can talk to them about all the different options. If it's the right solution, they'll buy. And so that's my, if you think about, what actually makes somebody convert, for me, it's face-to-face or it's video conferencing. Yeah. So never ran an event. Yeah. And you know what, the good thing is it's never been easier to do it now. And there's a lot of people trying. So there's been a lot of, I think people are more understanding about technical difficulties and stuff. And there's so many people to help now. So, and you don't have to do it alone, which is great. Dessert events. Oh, desserts make people happy. Oh, you better believe it. And my waistline. Oh my gosh. I think that's great. And just so you know, if you have a product that can be shipped, then you might want to reach out, because people are always asking me, everything's better with food, right? I mean, there's some people that aren't really foodies, but most of us, the old expression said, the way to a man's stomach is, the way to a man's heart is through their stomach. I think honestly, everything's better with food. I mean, when we gather, once you're, if you're hungry, you can't focus on what somebody's saying. And if it's delicious, I see a lot of, we're doing a lot of charcuterie boards. We have a supplier that can deliver pizza within a half hour anywhere around the globe. I mean, so if you've got a product that can get out with these swag bags, there's a huge market for event marketing. And if you can make it more fun by supplying something that can be sent out in conjunction to your event, you're not just creating an event, you're creating an experience. Now, what did Maya Angelou said? Maya Angelou said that people will forget what you tell them, but they won't forget how you make them feel. Well, I still have people talking about my wine and cheese party, and it was pretty simple. We had been separated for a while. The shutdown had happened. It was kind of abrupt. We were new then, and I missed my girls. I missed the girls that I used to see all the time, because there was a bunch of us in business, and I, like, used to connect. And I thought, I'm going to do something. I did a wine and cheese party. I did it on our platform, and I had my husband drive out a wine bag with a bottle of wine, some cheese, a fancy heart napkin. There was a bunch of different things, and there was some Gouda. And then I did a contest and said, hey, let's take those Gouda cheeses and let's make something. So here's what I made. I made a peace symbol. And everybody showed it, and it was kind of fun. Now, that was food, that was tactile. There was a lot of things. So event planner by trade, interested in all areas of virtual events, specifically at panel talk shows. Oh, that's been a really popular way, to get on stage and speak about your expertise. It's a great way to actually demonstrate what you know versus, everybody says they're amazing, right? Everybody says that they're an expert in this or an expert in that, but there's nothing more convincing than being on stage and showing people your expertise and shining. Okay, so international weaving event, for sure. One of the things that the pandemic has taught the world is that we're not just in our own little cubicle anymore. Now, the problem is that we're competing with the world, but the opportunity is that we have an opportunity to collaborate with the world. So, now time zones can be, I'm seeing shifts on, like, the globe is kind of splitting up because of time zones. So, it's kind of hard to do an event all over the world at one time, but, certainly splitting up the time zones and is a great way. And it's also an opportunity to partner with people. So, and teaching online, I don't want people sitting and listening. I agree. Just a show of hands, are you tired of sitting and being preached at in Zoom meetings? How do you feel about that? Yes, you're tired of it. You're spending too much time on the screen, or no, you're okay with that. I'm interested in seeing what the temperature's like in this room. How do you feel about that? I think the pandemic has been 17 or 18 months. Yeah, I'd be more engaged for sure. You're okay with it? Yeah. I've been doing it nonstop since 95. I've been working remotely since 1995. So I've always gone out to do my networking, but my team's always been in. So and people are hesitant. Really, there's a lot of there's good and bad, right? There's, some people, are really into it. And really, I'm asking you now, just out of curiosity, but really, I'm finding that certain pockets of people are feeling differently about this. Some people, like, one of the things with business networking was always a big thing with online, but now people, I'm finding, are not wanting to come out in the evening. Like, they've had enough of the screen and they're walking away. And I think the remote working has also caused us all to kind of watch our boundaries, to put up the boundaries, because theoretically, we can work anytime we want. So these are kind of things, movement to learning versus live. Yeah, for sure. I think it's, the industry is evolving now. So you have the opportunity to kind of create the brand, like create that experience. Whereas before, it was all kind of the same thing. Everybody did the same thing. Whereas now it's a creative thing, right? So you can show off, your creativity and really build loyalty around that, because it's not, content is amazing, but we've never had more access to content, right? Content is everywhere. And really, there's, some really good Zoom meetings I've gone to that are very well facilitated and they're engaging. And that, to me, is important, but I'm not everybody's audience. Everybody's audience is different. And this is the key takeaway that I'm going to speak to next, which is, who are you going to serve? Because honestly, everybody's different. Everybody comes from a different viewpoint. Just like, I don't want to go into masks and COVID and shots and all that stuff because it's all over the news, but we know that there's people that feel differently. We know that there's different camps, and there's different people feel differently about events. Some want to get together, but some don't feel comfortable with it. Some, want to get together, but their budget doesn't allow for it. And now they're stuck with online, and maybe they don't want online. And then some people can get high speed and some people can't. Some people have really solid internet and some people don't. So we're coming into a year to come that's going to be a mess. I predict a whole bunch of horrible hybrid events, already seeing one. Decided I'd go to an event planners conference recently, and they use feed loop, and I just have never been more disgusted with, and I thought I would get leadership, and instead I got a horrible platform with no engagement and really very little thought to the virtual guest. And that was unfortunate. I invested in that and I was disappointed. Now there was others that, like, it looked like the people on the ground were having a blast. But if you think about a wedding, you've all been involved in a wedding. There's two camps that come into your group, a little bit different. You've got men, you've got women, and you've got his side and her side. And the good host, it's really hard to get them to mix. That's what they're trying to do, is get them to mix. Same thing at the showers and all that stuff that come up. And when you come into these events and you're looking at a hybrid event, you've got two different types of audiences. You've got people that you have to make them feel like they're the only ones that exist. And then you've got that are in the virtual world, and there's people on the ground. So it's a challenge. Hybrid event isn't what you do. Hybrid event takes more planning and more money, just so you know. So just don't turn on the hybrid word and say jump on that. Make sure you think it out, and make sure that the number one, find out what people are comfortable with. We had the experience of helping a lot of groups through events who felt that everybody said, oh, I miss the hugs. I do a lot of networking with women, and I miss the hugs. Oh, I can't wait to meet in person. So I had two different kinds of customers, no names. I had one customer that was like that. They couldn't wait for the hugs. So as soon as it opened up, they canceled the virtual event and they went to an online event. Now, what happened with that? Here's the two camps. The people that have been loyally going for 1.5 years to the virtual event had no intention of going to the in-person event, so they didn't go. And all the people that were, and even though they were saying they were missing the hugs, like when push came to shove, they just weren't ready for it. And then you had those eager beavers that wanted to get together. They didn't feel like there was any concerns, but they hadn't been building momentum with them. So all of a sudden they announced this event and just figured everybody would show up like they always did, except for these people have been out on a limb because they didn't participate in the virtual. So it's really important to think about the who. Like once you figure out your why, who is it that you want on your team? And really, nobody needs to do this alone. I mean, we should also be thinking about who we can partner with, right? Because the very first thing you do when you create a business is you create a business idea and you go, okay, you proof the model, you get it all ready. What's the very next thing you do? You power up, you bring a team, right? You scale, right? You bring somebody in to complement you, ideally that has skills that you don't. So in the event world, you're going to bring on partners. So who else wants to get to the same audience you want to get to? And are your values aligned? And how can you work together? Everything is better in twos or threes, but definitely twos. So think about that and think about their why. Think about them before you approach them. I mean, I would, to me, it just makes sense. Joint ventures just makes sense to me. If I'm trying to market Mary Lou, do-it-yourselfer, startup business, then who else wants to market to that same person? Why not join forces? Work our respective databases, and combine resources. So in the event world, that's a huge play. You also have to then get clear, right? Because oftentimes when you partner with people, I kind of think this and you kind of think that. And that's why we have MOUs, right? Memorandum of Understandings, so that everybody's on the same page. But the other thing is you have to make sure your key communication, like your communication is crystal clear. because at this point, you've got two people that come together on a project. You have to do the same thing as you do with your brand. You have to decide what exactly is your value proposition, and how, what does that look like? What does the experience, what does this new creation, what does it look like before you start communicating it to the world? And then, of course, you're going to set the date. And that's exactly, as soon as you set the date, that's when you want to start promoting it immediately. A lot of people, I see a trend to people not promoting right away because most people buy in the last week. But what they're missing is that it takes so many touch points to get on the radar. It takes so much prep time to get into someone's calendar. And really, at the beginning, the communication just could be, save the date. You don't want to miss this. Okay, hold on a minute. Did I say that? There's no value proposition? No, it's hype. But guess what? You don't have your everything planned at this point. You just want them to save the date. And that curiosity is going to make them go, ooh, I don't want to miss out. Everybody has a fear of missing out. Save the date. You don't want to miss this. And get people reserving that date. Okay. And where are you going to do it? Like where is everybody comfortable? And where is the best place to meet? Like, is it, if you're thinking about a hybrid event, that's really wonderful. But if you want to do a hybrid event and you've got a virtual component, does the where have high speed? Are you going to be able to connect both audiences? Or are you going to think about doing, the live event today and the virtual event afterwards? Like, how does it all play out? Think about the where. The where has never been more important because internet is key, right? And how are you going to execute? How are you going to execute your plan? And that's really easy. You take all your stakeholders, you take the people that are coming together, you take your sponsors, you take your suppliers, you take your guests, and you think, how can I deliver and get my why? How does everybody get their why? How can I deliver value to everybody? And every event should have one play that I see so many people miss. So if you take one thing away from today, I'm going to suggest that this be the thing. Every event should be selling into the next event. Every event should sell into the next event or sell into something. There's got to be a call to action. And ideally, you don't want to just be a one-hit wonder. You don't want to be that artist that has that hit and they go all over everything. And then who is that? Nobody's heard of them 20 years later. And just as you diversify your offerings and, you might, and you design your funnels and, you've got the free offer, and then here's something else you might like. And maybe this webinar might be, $10 or whatever. And then you sell in, and then you got lots of things to sell. You see, finding that customer and building the trust is so critical. So why just stop? Always be selling into the next event, or at least selling something so that you've got permission to keep networking with them. I mean, we're in a time right now where people want to gather. So it just kind of makes sense to just kind of keep doing sequential events. You'll also find that pleasantly your prices will go down and it gets easier. So that's all good. So here are some things I want you to think about. And I'm just putting this up, not to scare you, but because some of you probably feel invincible. Like when I was a teenager, I sure did. I was on roller skates. The security guards were chasing me down the Eaton Center as it was built. I felt invincible. Nobody could get me, right? But now there's different camps. And if you're the type that's not concerned, and there's lots of people that feel pretty confident that nothing's going to happen to them, just read these so that you understand how some people surveyed are feeling. And just make sure you do the survey and find out what they actually want, what they're actually comfortable with, because I think a lot of people just didn't see that. I mean, automatically default, we think that what we know, everybody knows, right? But not so much. So in-person events, when all things are equal, this is my preference. I love going face-to-face. I love the hugs. But there's a lot of people that will never have the freedom or the money to travel. There's some people that don't have the computers or the knowledge, and you're gonna need to come up with plans for that. And some people right now don't have bandwidth. With that said, by the end of, I think it's next year, no, the end of 2022, everybody in at least everybody in Ontario anyway should have high speed or access to high speed. And some events don't typically work well virtually, but I have seen a lot of people do stuff like this. So, you know, it's all depends on what you want to do. Now, virtual events, you've got to think about accessibility. Like not everybody, you know, I'm pretty lucky. I don't have any disabilities to deal with, but you know, there's a lot of people that do. A lot of people that, you know, have hearing problems that don't probably mention it. Like, for example, I'm a little bit hard of hearing. Now, most times nobody would know that, but I think we want to be inclusive, right? So we want to be asking those questions when you're sending out invitations. Obviously, budget is a factor, and virtual events are cheaper, you know, because you don't necessarily have to, well, I guess it depends on the platform too, but, you know, whether, you know, as far as weather goes, we don't have to worry about weather, agility, you know, it's got built-in AV, so you don't have to hire a team, lots of features, and building community and sequential events like is the big trend. You know, like I say, always be selling into something else, even if it's next year's function. It just makes it easier. At a conference recently we ran, and there's never been more competition than there is now. But at a conference we ran recently, it's a group of women. They had, I think, about 80 or 90 women on the call. And she was a bit disappointed in the attendance. She was kind of hoping to be around the 200 point. And I said to her, that's okay. You're starting now, and that's okay. Let's do a play. I mean, let's play into your next event. And what would it be worth it to you if we got, you know, people to subscribe now? Like maybe could you offer them 15% off if they committed now, or what could you do? And she goes, well, I really don't know where we're going to be, and I don't know what the offering point is. It's like, okay, granted, the event's a year away. Let's still make the play. So we put a banner up that basically animated, so all eyes were on the banner, and basically said, you know, the first graphic was, you're here, this is the event, welcome. And then it would flash to the event is save the date, and it gave the date, and it said click here to register to receive 15% off next event. So out of the 60, I think it was 65, she got 32 people that registered. She got 32 people on her list. And, you know, as soon as the tickets are for sale, she can now make the next play. Hey, you registered. Here's the link you can get your access with. It's good until such and such a date. And listen, if you share, well, you know, like you just keep building the offers, right? So some of the things you need to consider, you know, a website, registration. Now, just so you know, a website is optional. You could just go with an Eventbrite page. You know, Eventbrite, there's lots of these registration sites. Eventbrite makes it pretty easy. It handles the e-commerce for you, all that stuff. But you could also, there's all sorts of different solutions out there. And of course, you know, the content that you've got, you're going to need to be able to have good audio and video. You know, they recommend that everybody wears buds, so and uses a mic so that you can get really good quality. And really, that's something that a lot of people don't really take into effect. Like they don't consider that. And I think that's important, especially when you're going into a full day event, because, you know, if you think about that radio station you listen to when you go and the reception's not great, it grates on you in a while. We want people always, when they think of our brand, to think of us well. So you might want to think about setting up, you know, getting some, you know, buds and stuff. Question and answers, you know, how are you going to engage them? What's the plan? What, you know, once you choose your platform, you know, how are you going to actually get them using the tools? That needs to go into your agenda. You know, what's your play to get them in the chat? What's your play to get them engaged? What do you want them to come out of it with? What will they say success looks like? And of course, there's video conferencing and surveys. These are all things I think are just standard things to do. Hybrid events are typically events that could be held at the same time. So there's a virtual component and there's the in-person component, and you've got two audiences there. So there's some considerations, right? You've got legislation, you've got screening, same with the in-person, right? You know, you've got to have that agenda that suits both, right? You want to have dedicated MCs at both sides. We did our first hybrid event in 2019. And what I did is I went with the live component as the game. I played the game live. And I ran it in Zoom at the time. It was my main platform at the time. And what I did is I broadcast out to 3 different locations. I had somebody at each location that acted as a like a moderator, the MC for that event. It worked really well. One of the spaces, one of the events we didn't have that in person, and it's a disconnect. If things go wrong, they can go really south. And if you think about it, if people came into your house and you were throwing this big party, if somebody ended up coming in through the shed and they were in the shed the whole night, that could cause your business a lot of damage. So you want to make sure that you're taking people, you've got people on the ground everywhere you've got people. And that somebody's looking out for them, so that if the experience is lackluster, for example, we were broadcasting into a business incubator in the West End of Toronto, and something happened and they lost internet. So somebody has to be there to kind of, skate a little bit while the internet's getting hooked up again, so you kind of need people on the ground everywhere you're going to be. And think about the haves and the have-nots too. That I think is becoming one of the things I like least about hybrid events. For example, when I signed up for the conference for the event planners that ran, it was a 3-day conference. The agenda wasn't necessarily showing. I bought an early bird ticket. You pay your money, you take your chances. But day one had 0 content for a virtual attendee. So I had booked the whole day off, and then I went on there and found out. But I'm seeing all the good stuff that they're getting. Ooh, maybe they should have had different programs, because although it wasn't included in the ticket price, here I am and things aren't going so great, but I can see all the selfies of those guys on the ground having a blast. You got to think about that. Maybe you want separate programs, right? Nobody likes to know they're missing out. So think about that. And what features are most important. If you are going to have a virtual feel, like if you're going to have the play and you're going to do a virtual play, you kind of need to think about the features. And, there's so many platforms out there. When I first did the research, I think I had, I don't know, because when I did the conference in 2019, the day after, as all the thank you notes were coming in, I thought, I am not doing this again. Like, it was just absolutely horrible, I felt. So I went out looking for another solution, and there's all sorts of them. I think we had 60 of them on the list at that point. Now, of course, since the pandemic, it's really opened up. So here are some of the reasons some of the things that you could look at, and they're all getting better all the time. We have a database now. I think we have, I think last count, it was over 300, maybe 350 solutions, and they all come in different shapes and sizes. So so what you want to do is kind of think about the features that are most important to you and your partners and your guests, and then do a little bit of research. Feel free to reach out if you're looking for suggestions. I'm happy to help. I'd also like to show you my platform. And really, we do offer 6 or 7 like that we can manage your platform for you. So if you're just not good with the tech and you want somebody to help, we're happy to do that. And there's lots of, like, that's a new role now. There's lots of people like me that do that. So there's lots to choose from. Here are some things you might want to take a screenshot. This is not a pretty slide, but it's got some key things that you want to consider. And I put this together just so that you would have this. Like, for example, insurance. Like, how many people consider insurance? But you need event insurance. I was running events for 15 years before I realized there was event insurance. So it's pretty cheap, but make sure you have it. And if you do a virtual event, don't leave it to the last minute, because insurance companies are going through a transformation and they don't understand the digital world. And there's a lot of risk to them with cybersecurity. So don't leave that one to the last minute, because quite frankly, they don't know what they're doing right now. It took us 2 months to get proper insurance, like blanket insurance for all the events we do. And it's another reason that you might want to go with a professional, just so that, you don't face the pitfalls yourself. But even if it's just for the first one to get you started. Anyways, and registration, here's some tips for registration. I could probably go on and on. In fact, I have a 1-day training for running events, but this will give you a kind of a quick rundown of the registration stuff that you should consider. Now I'm going to stop sharing that, and I'm just going to check and see. I'm going to invite you actually to come off silent and speak. If you have questions, now's a good time. And then I'll go into the next presentation. Maybe what we'll do is we'll go into the space and I'll actually show it to you there. So who would like, is anybody have a question? I think maybe you can raise your hands. I believe you can raise your hands in this platform. And I'm going to leave that open for like, maybe 30 seconds. Anybody have a question? Anything?
So I just have a quick question. You have the slide deck after that you could send and we can send it out, or?
Yeah, this presentation is like a day worth of curriculum, but I could probably put together, I can probably put something together for sure. With the key information for sure. I can do a handout per se. And I'll get that to Lori, and then Lori can do her magic. That'd be awesome. Any other questions?
There's one in the chat, Sue. Is there an insurance company that you recommend for event insurance, both in person and virtual?
I would go, you know what, I'm not really thrilled with the process I went through with mine. I went through 4 before I could find one that was brave enough to deal with it, because everything, the insurance model is actually changing right now. So I'm afraid I can't recommend the one I would do. I would suggest that you find somebody local that knows you and that will do the digging, because like I say, the industry is in upheaval now. Just like in the day with real estate, back in the day, there used to be all these independents, and then they kind of all came together. The insurance agency, or I should say the mortgage lending business, did the same thing. They all came together. That's happening in the insurance agents, in the insurance business today. There's a lot of transformation. So you kind of need somebody that's going to, that's comfortable with digital, right? Like for example, all of you have a host, like a website by now, I hope. And your website has to be hosted, but you try to get insurance as a host, it's through the roof, because cyber crime is on the rise. So yeah, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that, but I would do the research. I would find somebody local that loves you and say to them, I want to do events in an affordable way. I understand I need event insurance, and they'll shop the market for you. And I prefer that, because when things go wrong, I know in early 2000s, I came into the office one day and we had 7 full-time and 30 contractors, but 7 people came in on the day. And I went down the one step, I went down the stairs, went down 1 step, 2nd step, hit water, splash. Our office was flooded. So when people came in, I handed them their computer and we were shut down for, I think, 3 months. The insurance company, because they were local, they made it happen. They took care of all the claim stuff and all that. So your broker is just so important. And I've known a lot of people that had that same situation and really took a long time to get back up and running. So I really go for the human capital. Find somebody that you know and love. Well, ask around in your community, find out who are the players, and interview them, ask them. And I wouldn't just go to one. I went to one at the beginning, and then there was a big long silence. And then I went to another person. I thought, this is really weird. Like, I've been doing business since 92. Like, what's going on? So I followed up and I thought, you know what? I'm going to go to all the people of all the groups that I'm a member of. And I'm going to put out the request to everybody. I can't wait. I have to get an answer. And it was amazing. Half of them didn't even respond. They're scared of taking these policies on. So don't wait. That's all. That's my main advice. And get somebody doing the work for you. Had I known that a long time ago, I would have done that at the beginning. Because I eventually found somebody. I went to my chamber. I found somebody I really knew. And I said, look, what the heck is going on? I'm trying to get insurance. And yet, like, people aren't ghosting me. And and she explained it. They just don't know what to do right now. A lot of the people that fund them, a lot of the ones, like, they basically find somebody that will take on the risk. And yeah. So anyways, sorry, I wish I had the magic pill there. I don't. But
sorry,
yeah.
in my industry, we have a national insurance, but again, if we're doing individual events, say we do it in a school or a community center, again, it's following or looking for the people that will help you. For example, in the schools, you go to the board of the board, and specifically what kind of school you might be using as an event, and then find out your cost. And then community, the same thing. And excellent giving us choices of different people. And I'd like to know who is specific that we might reach out for.
Yeah, you mean as far as who you choose as a
resource person?
Yeah,
that would do the work.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you go to like PARO has a directory, I believe, and you could look there. You could also go, I ended up going to the chambers and the associations I'm members of, and I looked there. And I think it's just somebody that's going to push it through, because the people that I don't know what they call them, but the actual insurers, the ones that will pay you out if something goes wrong, they're the one, they have to know those. And yeah, Chantel, Chantel's just put the link in the directory. So there probably is somebody that specializes in this in our network. And I would start there, somebody that understands your business and just ask them for advice. Yeah, so for sure. So if there's any other questions, then, oh, okay, I see one more come in. For sure, I'm happy to help. And if I can help any of you individually, feel free to reach out. I'll give you a heads up. I'm a little slammed right now, so sometimes it takes a little bit more for me to get back to you, but I will get back to you. Now, how do you feel about going over and jumping on and seeing something new? I mean, I'm sure you've all been on Zoom. Some of you have experienced my platform before. It's called World Event Center. Some of you haven't. At the conference, there's going to be a breakout to this session. And I've got my team there waiting for you. So we've got 15 minutes left. And what I'd like to do is actually take you there. And I could give you a presentation on how it works. But I would suggest, why don't you just click on that link? Now, you can't have windows in both. You got lost. I'm sorry, Kenna. If you click on, what I'm going to suggest is copy the link I've just given you. You can put it and then close Zoom and then go over to the other event. And then what you'll see is my team will be there. You can move around. Actually, I'm going to share something with you right now before I send you there, just so that you've got, let me just share my screen again.
And Sue, I'll stay on Zoom in case anyone's having a hard time jumping over, because I know we've had that in the past. So if you go over to your spot, I'll stay here. We'll make sure everyone gets there.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you so much. And I think that's a great idea. So let's just leave. Let's just shut this down. Copy the URL, shut this down, put that URL in the address bar at the top, and I will meet you on the other side. Okay, so welcome. Welcome. I'm glad. Okay, here we go. All right, we just came over from Zoom. We've got people coming over from Zoom, and I'm getting an error that says network check failed. Open talk failure. Audio video screening may not work as expected.
Sue, I think it's because you're still on Zoom. So make sure you are, because I see you still, and I'm not on your spot. And go ahead, whoever's got the phone number, go ahead and just join the World Event Center. If you have a hard time, pop back onto Zoom, or let me know what your error is, and I can try to help you from here.
Okay, and I'm just going to make a mention that
they'll all come around the same time. So
you will need to close Zoom off in order to make this work. So you're going to have to click leave to get there.
Barbara, do you want to just share your screen on Zoom and I'll see I'll see if I can walk you through. I know some people, for some reason, that link brings them somewhere different. And I'm wondering if that's what happened to Kenna as well, who said they got lost. Tina, there's no demo, so you can sign in with either, you can sign in, create an account, or I think it lets you join with your Google account as well if you already have a Google account. So Barbara, I think that's who's sharing screen. Go ahead and create your account, or go back and do a Google account, and then it should be able to bring you right to the showroom. And once you create this, it'll be good for the PARO event as well. You'll be ready to go. So I would click that bottom, I'm in a hurry, take me right into the event, and you'll be there, and you can leave Zoom and you'll see Sue over there, because this will give you an error now that you're on both. Okay, anybody else having a hard time joining? Okay, so you could go ahead and unmute and share your screen if you'd like, and I can try to walk you through that as well. That's why we're doing this today, instead of giving you guys a chance to do it now, so we're ready for the event. Yeah, so same thing. You could make your password in there. And then you'll just have to click on the I agree to the terms and conditions and click on join event. And this will only pop up, like when you have the link next time, it'll bring you straight to the event. At least on my end, it automatically keeps me signed in. Password is not diversified enough.
Okay.
So try some, make sure you've got some capital letters or some, symbols or something in there. Okay, you look like you're good. So you can close Zoom. It'll be the same thing. It'll give you an error because you've got your camera and your mic on here. And you can just click that I'm in a hurry, because Sue will be over there taking you guys through. And I see T-Horse, you put the page not found. That's not an error I've seen. So make sure you're clicking on that link. I see Lori just reposted the link. So hopefully if you follow that one, it should work. Anybody else want to go through it if you're having a hard time? Can I see you unmuted? Are you having a hard time?
Yeah, I went into the other one and I turned off my Zoom and lost the other one. I can't find it. And so I came back to Zoom to get the link again.
Okay, I'll post it again, because I know if you leave and come back, the chat goes away. So I just posted it again for you.
Thanks. Okay, I don't know where it goes though. Like it's
So if you want
not in my browser. It's like
it should pop up in your browser, but if you want to click on it and then share your screen on Zoom, I can walk you through getting on.
Okay, I'm in too, but
So what is it showing you? If you pop on Zoom, you should have a button, a green button at the bottom that lets you share screen if you're on a computer. I'm not sure where it is on a phone. I know it's, you still have that option, but then I can walk you through it and see
No,
what you're seeing.
I don't see anything about sharing screen at all.
Are you on looking at your Zoom screen, or are you on the World Event Center page?
I'm on the world events.
So if you go on Zoom, you should be able to share your screen from there, and then I can you can share your world event screen if that makes
Okay,
sense.
I've got 4 world events open and now I can't find, okay, there you were. There's the Zoom. Okay. Where is this? Geez, I can't get them all on the same. I just can't get them together. I can get one or the other.
Yeah, so
And
if you pop on Zoom and click that share screen, it'll let you pop up the World Event Center, and then I'll be able to see the same thing you're seeing. Or I can show you what it looks like from my end.
Where's the share screen? Okay, I got it.
Okay.
All right. I clicked on share screen. Just
Yeah, so now you've just got to choose the World Event Center tab when it pops up.
okay.
Okay, it's just loading here for me to see. There we go. Oh, so you're on. So you can just click on that X, click on join.
Yeah.
Sue's going to be bringing you to a presentation there. So you're good to go. You can leave Zoom. You're on the platform.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
no problem.
Now I gotta figure out how to close the Zoom.
If you've got a hard time, I think Lori can boot you if you need it.
Yeah, boot me out, please.
Okay, yeah, for sure, no problem.
Okay, and it looks like most people have hopped over. Is there anyone else having a hard time getting over to the other platform? I'm going to guess